Poppy Playtime, a mascot horror game developed by Mob Games, has been a topic of controversy since the initial release of Chapter 1 in October of 2021, with claims that it was only made to sell merch. With the development studio having accusations of plagiarism thrown against them and signing a contract to make NFTs, the game was held under negative light in the public's eye. Mob Games would have to really prove that this series is more than a money machine. They'd have to prove that it really is a passion project worth our time. Come the release of Chapter 2 in May 2022, it seemed they had done just that. A perfect chapter by no means, but it was certainly impressive. With fun gameplay, great animation, visuals and voice acting, and some really interesting lore, this chapter was a lot more impressive than the first, and gave the series a leg to stand on, gaining the attention of YouTubers and horror fans across the internet.
Oh my god!
It was criticised for some of the minigames being too hard or too boring, and the game being quite buggy on release, but overall, it was a success. Just 3 months later on August 6th, Chapter 3 was announced with a short teaser video showcasing a gas mask and a release year of 2023. The next 5 months, however, were silent. Yes, we got Project Playtime, but that's an entirely different beast. It was almost a full year after the first teaser trailer that the second was finally released. And it looked incredible. The darker atmosphere, disturbing visuals, the teaser of the main antagonist, and the reveal of the chapter's name, Deep Sleep. This was exactly what Mob Games needed to build excitement for this release. It caught the eyes of even the biggest doubters, leaving Mob Games in the perfect position. Alongside a promise of dialing the horror up, if they nailed this chapter, it could be regarded as the greatest mascot horror game ever made. The months up to December 2023, the planned release for the game, were full of excitement. We got our first look at the Smiling Critters, an in-universe news report about our antagonist, CatNap, and a gameplay trailer giving us a look at even more terrifying characters, environments, and lore teasers. Despite the chapter being delayed into 2024, the internet couldn't get enough, with each trailer getting upwards of 10 million views. The final trailer released on January 24th, revealing the full design of CatNap and the final release date of January 30th. The release was a resounding success. Over 3,000 reviews within 4 days, with a rating of very positive, YouTubers getting millions of views per video, and of course, merch being released. Right away, people were very happy with this chapter, me included. Incredible graphics, a great soundtrack, a harrowing atmosphere, and some of the game's most terrifying moments so far. Unfortunately, taking a deep look into Deep Sleep, some glaring flaws become quite apparent. It's CatNap. CatNap is the glaring flaw. The game starts off with a fantastic introduction of CatNap and the rest of the Smiling Critters, foreshadowing CatNap's role in the story through the news report of the toy being recalled. CatNap drops the flyer down a garbage chute, giving us a good look at his terrifying little face before the game truly begins. As you traverse through the beginning of the game, an off-screen guide character named Ollie says this:
Playcare is his church, his hunting ground, whatever he wants it to be.
This immediately sets Playcare up to be a dangerous place, stalked by CatNap, a character who has been built up constantly throughout what we've seen so far. This is followed by a well-designed, fun puzzle section, which are some of the chapter's highlights. Unfortunately for the player, not everything goes to plan, as the power goes out and we're forced to delve deep into Home Sweet Home, which is probably the best section of the entire game thus far. Eerily winding corridors, incredible ambience, disturbing lore, and one of the best bits of horror I've ever experienced. No stinger, no noise at all really, just a well-crafted scare. Followed by an incredible scripted chase and jump scare with the nightmarish Huggy Wuggy, this section of the game is fantastic. A number of people have compared it to other games like PT, which is an incredible feat of Mob Games. The rest of Home Sweet Home consists of some exploration and puzzle solving, which is overall really fun, but I think it's about time I finally delve into the title of this video. CatNap is the main antagonist of this chapter. His design is fantastic and the way he's built up is incredible. Playcare is his hunting grounds, every shadow and flickering light is a hiding spot for him. These are all things said in-game by Ollie, but despite how terrifyingly cool all this sounds, it's actually the downfall of the chapter. CatNap is just like Huggy Wuggy and Mummy Longlegs. He's not stalking or hunting you at any point during the game. Every time you see him, it's in an area that you can't reach or part of a scripted cutscene. The game portrays him as a vicious hunter through its writing, but in reality, he's never on the prowl. It's evident to me that Mob Games intended CatNap to be a stalker. He was never meant to be an active threat to the player, but more of a looming presence, giving the player a constant sense of dread. It falls apart at the seams due to the way the chapter is presented, however. Take a look at this scene.
CatNap is coming. He's the final obstacle the prototype has placed against us. We can't stay here. Keep yourself safe.
This sucks. Why say he's coming just for the game to return to normal? Was this meant to instill fear in the player? Whatever was intended, this scene falls flat on its face, and that theme is continued later on when Ollie says,
And keep your eyes open for CatNap. Every shadow and every flickering light is a hiding spot. And when you're at your most vulnerable, he'll kill you.
This heavily implies that CatNap will be an active threat in the area, but yet again, we're left with another scripted jump scare. This would have been completely fine. In fact, I love this scare. I think it works really well, but it would have been all the more effective if the player had already seen CatNap prowling through the building. What is instead done is that Mob Games tricks the player into thinking they aren't safe through use of scripted encounters and sound effects, and while this is very clever and effective, it ruins all replayability. If I knew on my first playthrough that I was never in danger in Home Sweet Home, the Playker Hub, or the Counselor's Office, I would have never been scared. This game had me on edge constantly, which I applauded for. However, the way CatNap is used leaves a lot to be desired. He's the definition of wasted potential. While he's far from bad, he's very far from good. Having him stalk you through Home Sweet Home as you try to stealthily solve puzzles, dashing between the rooms to avoid him, would have made for an incredibly tense sequence. Or even have him walk around the Playker Hub, making you choose your route more carefully while pulling the cables back to the statue. Implementing either of these ideas would require a bit of reworking of these segments, but I 100% believe that it would have been worth it, and from what I've seen online, I think most people would agree. Hell, one of the gameplay trailers even shows us what seems to be the player scaring off CatNap using a flare gun in a very early version of Home Sweet Home. This looks amazing! Could you imagine doing all those puzzles and carrying the energy from green switch to green switch, with CatNap sitting in the shadows, waiting for his moment to pounce? It would have been the perfect gaming experience. Unfortunately, it doesn't end there. It's time to talk about the ending of the chapter and what an ending it is. After bringing power back to the gas production room by exploring some absolutely fantastic, albeit quite buggy sections with Mist Delight, the mini Smiling Critters, and Dog Day, CatNap finally makes his first appearance as an active threat, and I'm not a fan. This hallucination form of CatNap feels a lot less intimidating than the normal version. The exaggerated smile does not work in my opinion. I like the idea of him being more skeletal, however I don't think it was executed all too well. After asking around, I found a lot of people thought the same. An elevator ride later and we're thrown into the climax of the chapter, a sit and survive encounter with CatNap. Use the green hand to activate steam to keep him away. The premise is simple enough, but the slow switching between hands makes the fight a bit of a pain to learn, and the unmarked QuickTime event at the end has claimed more than a few lives.
What? I thought it was a cutscene.
Oh, I'm sorry, the game expects you to put the
I'm not here to talk about the gameplay of the fight, but rather the theming. CatNap is a hunter. He hides in shadows and flickering lights. Throughout the game we never really get a good look at him due to how fast and stealthy he is, yet in the climax of the chapter, our big encounter with him, he just walks towards us slowly? This fight is completely out of character for CatNap, and it's a huge shame. His character was built incredibly and he was absolutely terrifying throughout the game, so seeing his fight be as bad as it is, hurts. You could replace him with any other character here and it would fit just as well, and then just like that, he's dead. Gone too soon. The chapter ends with an info dump on the Hour of Joy, letting us see it take place through a tape. I found this absolutely chilling the first time I saw it, but I'm not sure how much of a fan I am of how direct this showcase is. Nonetheless, it works. A decent little cliffhanger with Kissy's fate being unknown, and the chapter is done. Overall, Chapter 3 is great. Home Sweet Home is terrifying, Mr. Delight's school is stressful, and the playhouse, even if a bit buggy, is incredibly cool. Despite CatNap's downsides and how he was implemented, I'm still a huge fan of what we did get of him. I just wish we got a bit more before he met his unfortunate demise. With that said, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Some absolutely incredible segments, but a bad ending and very little replayability. Mob Games definitely knows what they're doing with the series now. I think that if they stick the landing with the rest of the chapters, Poppy Playtime will be one of the best full-release horror games of our time. Thank you for watching.